Alrighty, guys, let's get into it. Week 4. What is the United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods? What does that mean? Well, to abbreviate it, CISG, also sometimes referred to as the Vienna Convention, is a treaty intended to provide a uniform body of laws relating to the sale of goods between nations. So basically, it's just a treaty. It's a kind of like an intermediary when it comes to sale of goods, like putting together contracts for sale of goods. So basically, they reduce barriers to international sales by creating modern substantive rules to govern the respective rights and obligations of parties to an international sales contract. So basically, what they're doing is they're trying to eliminate all the um, discrepancies and any issues that might arise due to sale of contracts, due to international sale of goods. In other words, they aim to simplify the process of buying and selling goods in international commerce. Okay, so basically, that's all they do. They come together in order to just try to simplify the process. Um, what's a multilateral treaty? That establishes a uniform framework for international commerce. We went over that. It was created to eliminate some of that uncertainty, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to international contracts, international trade, because every country has their different rules and regulations. So basically, it comes together. The CISG comes together in order to just eliminate some of the uncertainty. Um, Parties can often avoid difficult conflict of law issues and fill in gaps in contracts, right? Um, Basically, the stuff that they address is sellers' obligations regarding the quality of the goods, the buyer's obligations to take to delivery, examine goods, and provide notice of lack of conformity, and the buyer's remedies for breach of contract by the seller. So basically, it helps the buyer um, come to a conclusion of accepting the product from the supplier, and just basically make sure that the buyer is happy with the sale from the supplier. Conflict of laws. So, as with domestic contracts for supplies, investments, or other business endeavors, an international dispute between contracting parties can occur. Okay, so let's say that you have two parties come together, one supplier, one buyer. There could be some contract issues. Um, in the event of a dispute, so if it's something like that does happen, the contract and everything's already super complicated, and it's a very lengthy and costly process of trying to come to a resolution. Um, so the conflict of law is also called private international law, like we talked about, and its categories of contracts and torts concern disputes between individuals from different nations, whereas public international law governs relationship between states, like we talked about, right? Individual contracts, whether commercial or personal, increasingly contain an international element. The judgment in an international lawsuit could vary depending on which national law is applied. The realm of conflict of law is working towards resolving the barriers to these decisions. Okay, so the judgment in an international lawsuit could vary depending on which law is applied. Okay, so basically, conflict of laws comes into play when working to resolve any barriers or issues that arise in a um, in a private transaction. So because there are no international laws, so what is conflict law? So there's no international laws to govern um, a transaction between individuals. There's only domestic laws. So if it's within the same country, then there's laws for that. But there was no laws for it to for parties like individuals doing business overseas. There's nothing in regards to that. So that's what conflict of laws comes into place. Is a phrase used when the laws of different countries on a specific topic are dissimilar. Okay, so when they're not the same, when the laws in different countries that are doing business are not the same, that's when conflict of laws comes together. When this happens, courts need to decide which law will be followed. The following are some other principles of the conflict of laws. So party autonomy. So parties are free to choose a law governing their contract. So basically, whoever is involved is the one who is choosing which law they want to go with. Sovereignty. A state or government is free from external control of other states or governments. Every country has exclusive control and authority inside its borders. The principle has to do with the independence of all sovereignties. Comity, respect, consideration, adoption, and/or enforcement by one country of the laws of another country. Uniformity, laws will not vary from one nation's jurisdiction to another. Rather, they will be the same or universal. Good faith, completing an action or task, including entering a contract with honorable intent and resolve to a sincere effort to obtain the desired results. Okay, so those are some parts of the principles of conflict of law. So export controls, what are export controls? You just think about the definition of export controls. What do you think of? You know, we all know what importing and exporting is. Um, Importing and exporting obviously is the buying and selling of goods from different countries, bringing it into their country. So exporting controls, basically you're trying to send stuff out of your own country. So controls are basically there are laws and regulations that regulate and restrict the release of critical technologies, information, and services to foreign nationals within and outside a country and foreign countries for reasons of foreign policy and national security. Okay, so you have to have control over the stuff that you're sending out from the country. Okay, so um, it could be stuff that have to deal with a business, business dealings or government dealings, stuff like that that need to stay within the country and not be sent anywhere else. So that's we have export controls on that. So it's broad. It includes stuff like equipment, software code, chemical and biological materials, and technical data. Um, Export controls apply to virtually all fields of science and engineering and restrict both physical shipment and electronic transmission of information. Okay, so export controls are basically the control of goods that are going out of the country. And they put restrictions on the stuff that can go and the stuff that can't go. Export sales contract. So you're exporting stuff. You're gonna need a sales contract. Okay. Um, so basically is where the exporter transfers or agrees to transfer the property and goods to the importer for a price. From this definition, the following essentials of export sales contract emerge. So two parties. There must be at least two parties. An export has to be lateral, obviously, because you need two parties, one a buyer, one's a seller. Goods, right? The goods are the stuff that you're moving, the stuff that are people are purchasing. Transfer or agreement to transfer is the ownership that is transferred or agreed to be transferred. Transfer of more possessions of goods is not covered. So um, basically, it's just transfer of goods. Once you sell something to somebody and they have it within their possession, and they paid for it, that means it's their property now. It's not yours. Price, obviously, we know what price is. Essentials of valid contract. So basically, the contract has to meet the general law requirements. Okay, so you have to make sure that all these things are all these things are assessed and included in an export sales contract. So an export sales contract, similar to the international sales contract that I posted at Google Classroom, it's not not really much different. So if you guys are looking for something to look at, please look at that. Import controls. We did export controls. Now we're talking about import controls. So it's basically the exact same thing, right? You have stuff coming into the country, and you need to make sure that the stuff coming in is nothing that will harm the country or can affect the country in any negative way. So basically, It's their role is to enforce health, environmental security, and safety, and technical standards that arise from domestic law and international agreements. Basically, import controls handles all items that can or cannot be imported into the country. Example, firearms and military weapons into Canada has very strict import controls. What's product liability? So basically refers to a manufacturer or seller being held liable for placing a defective product into the hands of a consumer. Responsibility for a product defect that causes injury lies with all sellers of the product who are in the distribution chain. So basically what they're saying is product liability is if you're selling a product to somebody overseas and people get injured because of it, or people are, it's a faulty product that hasn't been manufactured to code, then you are definitely held liable, which means you're held responsible. Product liability negligence. So occurs when a supplier, such as a wholesaler, retailer, distributor, manufacturer, or other party in the supply chain, places a product the stream of commerce into the stream of commerce with inaccurate or inadequate labeling, or manufacturing or design defects or flaws. So sometimes you guys see this with, let's just say that somebody someone's moving some sort of chemicals, and the chemicals don't have the hazardous data sheet, the data sheets on the chemicals, and the client doesn't know that this chemical is, let's say it's corrosive, or it's poisonous, or if you inhale it you die, or something like that, or you get sick. If they don't know that, and you send this product to them without the right data sheets, you're gonna have that's called product liability negligence. So you were negligent on your part in order to get the product sent to the client correctly. Product liability tort basically is just law which concerns the responsibility of the manufacturer or vendor or of a product to ensure that products are safe and do not cause injury. Okay, so it's something that's put into place to make sure that your product is not a law. It's a field of law which is responsible for the manufacturing of your product to make sure that it doesn't hurt anyone. And then you have product liability insurance. Basically, you're just getting insurance in order to, if anything does happen, then insurance will handle all claims and all that stuff. So you pay insurance per month to keep that. It's like car insurance, right? You're driving around every single day. You're hoping that you don't get into an accident, unless you get into an accident, and you're getting sued for $1 million. If you have insurance, insurance takes care of all of that. You don't have to pay any of that out. All right, easy guys. This was an easy slide. Week 4 completed. We will go over this during class. Thanks, guys.